those icy fingers up and down my spine.
The same old witchcraft when your eyes meet mine.
This is Chat with Women on Seattle's Retro Radio, KIXI.
Welcome back. You're listening to Chat with Women, and I'm Rochelle.
And I'm Pam.
And now joining us is Elliott Connie, who is a best-selling author, well-known couples therapist, and an internationally known speaker and teacher who trains clinicians in solution-focused brief therapy. His newest book is The Solution-Focused Marriage. Welcome, Elliott.
Thank you. Thank you. Good to be here.
Nice to have you. So what is solution-focused therapy?
Solution-focused brief therapy is an approach to psychotherapy that focuses people and conversations on goals as opposed to problems.
Oh.
Okay, so... Okay, Elliott, normally we go into counseling.
Right.
And, you know, the last 20 years, all that
He
stuff
did.
you did to me. So you don't ever talk about, because a lot of times there's a bunch of anger. So how do you get rid of the anger and just talk about goals when there's all this anger and nobody's listened to you?
And no garbage dumping.
Yeah.
Well, you know, we come into therapy because we want a different experience. Like, we want something...
We want it better.
To be different.
Right.
So in solution-focused brief therapy, I'm immediately going to ask you to start describing to me what you'd like to be better in your life, which is usually not connected to the activities that have caused problems to pop up.
Okay. All right. I get it. So
okay.
we don't go into, he doesn't pay any attention to me.
He doesn't say, I love you enough.
Right. It's now what I want out of a marriage is I want a loving, caring husband. So I start. Okay.
Well, and I would assume you would be saying, in what way do you want that? Because that's so broad. You know, I would like him to call me once a day. I assume,
I just
right?
want a loving, caring husband.
But what is that?
I don't know. He's going to have to figure it out.
What is that?
We'll start having a detailed conversation about what you would like the loving and caring activities to look like and how they will be reciprocated and on and on and on, things like that. But, yeah, we'll have conversations like that.
Okay, so we also want to talk about the 5 ways to turn marriage problems into marriage solutions. So what are those 5 ways? Because I am dying. I have my pencil ready.
Well, in my book, I talk about 5 habits that, happy couples tend to have in their life. Like 5 habits that when we implement these things in our relationship, the relationship benefits, the coupleship grows, the partnership between the two people just gets enhanced.
Okay.
So the first one is having a goal for your relationship.
Oh.
That is like having identified dialogue about where we're going as a couple, like what we're building together, on the same page about the goals of our relationship.
Okay.
Do we retire early? Are we going to work later? Are we going to have children? Are we going to not have children? But actually having dialogue about what the goals and the specifics about the relationship we're building on.
Okay, Elliott, what about, now you've been married for 30 years. It's not about having children. It's not about, so I assume you can still set goals for your relationship.
Absolutely. I mean, we can always have goals. Albert Einstein once said that if you want to have a happy life, attach it to a goal.
No, that's true.
Even if the goal is, if the future is not as long as when it was when you're in your 20s, we still have to identify what we're moving towards.
Okay, what's number 2?
Number 2 is taking credit for the honeymoon phase of the relationship. So, I'll give you an example. I'll tell you what I mean by that, right? The honeymoon phase of the relationship is the beginning time of the relationship when we were at our very, very best.
Right.
A good job of experiencing love, happiness, joy, and all those things. The funny thing is when the relationship is that positive in the beginning, we tend to not take credit for it. We just want to just enjoy the ride kind of, right? So we're not really understanding that the relationship isn't getting started by coincidence or karma or, Cupid didn't shoot you in the heart. You're doing things to cause happiness in your partner, and your partner's doing things that cause happiness to you.
Okay.
So you have to be aware of what those actions and activities are so we can do them more frequently, more regularly, and with intent.
Okay, but Elliott, I I have to stop you on this because in the honeymoon, you didn't really know each other that well. As Pam said, what do you do with a couple that's been married 30 years and they know each other's in and outs and idiosyncrasies? And now these things, when he shakes his legs or burps at the table after dinner, drive you crazy. So how do you get back to that honeymoon
Who
time?
can remember?
Well, because I think we spend that 30 years noticing the things that annoy us more than we do noticing the things that cause us joy.
You're right. That's probably true. Okay. Well, okay. So what we have to do
is forget that and go to
think
joy.
about, because if you think about what we're supposed to do every day in our life, we're supposed to be talking and writing what we're grateful for, not what frustrates us. So it's the same kind of thing in a relationship. You're saying for us to, because we know in a week there's got to be something they're doing right. If we can just remember what it is, then we could write it down. So what's number 3? I think that's pretty funny. Is there something in a way?
Pretty funny.
What's number 3?
Number 3 is we have to communicate about progress. So kind of just what you were just saying.
Right.
Is we do have a tendency to notice how often you leave the toilet seat up or how often you forget to do a task that I ask you to do. But there are also times when we do things quite well, where we do things that actually advocate for the relationship and the accomplishment of our goals and really create joy and happiness in our lives, and we have to create dialogue about that. You know, we always say things to our partner like, hey, sweetie, we need to talk. And it's never followed up with positive information.
No, you're right. When I say that, look out.
Yeah, they get nervous.
But, that's really interesting. If you said, honey, we need to talk, and you said, I want to point out some of the things that you've done really great this week, they'd probably be in shock.
Exactly, and that's exactly the conversation we need to have.
Yeah, because then they're going to be, when next time you say that, they'll sit down and listen and won't run the other way. So what's number...
Positivity is part of our life, and it's a good thing.
What's number 4?
Number 4 is that we have to continue to date.
We have to date, yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, everybody would say that, right? I mean, all marriage counselors in the world would say, yeah, continue to date.
Right.
But I really, really mean dating as a mindset. Like when you were in the dating mindset in the early part of your relationship, you were putting your best foot forward.
Absolutely. You put on that cute dress. You made sure your hair looked nice. You smiled a lot more.
Yes. I think you appreciate each other, too. If you go into that mode, then you realize, hey, I'm appreciative. And that's where you can say, gee, I really want to thank you for date night. That was really fun.
Exactly. Yes. So I mean dating as a mentality, not just an activity.
Right. And the final?
The final step is to function as a partnership. So you and your partner should combine your strengths and talents to work for the relationship and not against it.
I have to ask you, Elliott, how many sessions does it take with you to get all of this, where people start really using this? Because, so many times you go to marriage counselor for a year and you don't notice any big changes.
Right. Well, I'll answer that in 2 ways. Number 1, if people are not experiencing a change after the very first time we've met, I'm surprised.
Wow.
Nothing surprises me more than what couples do between appointments number 1 and number 2. It absolutely blows me away. And we typically get to the successful completion of therapy in less than 6 sessions.
Gee, that's fabulous.
Well, that's what people are looking for. We're not in a relationship without wanting it to be better. But sometimes going to counseling is just so overwhelming. You have 45 minutes, 50 minutes, and then, it's a week later, and then you just rehash the same thing all over again. So I mean, I don't think there's anybody, most people have at least attended counseling at some point. And if you're really wanting the best marriage. So this sounds really, really good, Elliott. So do you have a website?
I do have a website where people can go. Actually, I'm going to give you 2. Okay. One of them is about my work and the stuff that I do, and people can also find the book there, which is ElliottSpeaks.com. That's ElliottSpeaks.com. And the other one is about this particular book and some of the information I just went over, which is thesolutionfocusedmarriage.com.
Wonderful. Well, thank you so much for joining us today. That was very informative. We wrote all 5.